What if we've misunderstood silence? What if silence isn't empty space, but formative space? Hello, my friends. Come on in. It's always great to spend time with you. If you're a steady listener, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining me, I'm especially glad that you found your way here. I'm Lucy Ann, and here at Amazing by Design, we intentionally take a pause from the noise and busyness of our everyday lives, and we come together to have honest conversations about how our faith intersects with our daily lives. And most importantly, what it looks like to live connected with God from the inside out, without pressure, without performance. So if you can, grab your mug of coffee or tea and let's settle into today's conversation. In my coaching work, there are moments when I'll ask a question and then everything goes silent. At first, that silence can feel real uncomfortable, and you can almost feel the urge to want to fill it, to say something more, to help move things along, to get to the answer faster. But wisdom has taught me this: not to rush those moments. Because often, what a woman needs most at that time isn't another word from me. What she really needs is space for something true to arise within her. So, what do? I sit there with her in the silence. And before long, something begins to shift. She notices clarity. Insights begin to form. And this is where I usually see the breakthrough happening. This is something that I want to talk to you about today. Silence is not empty space. And yet, most of us don't experience silence that way. Rather, we experience it as something to avoid, something that's unproductive, something that feels like we should be taking some kind of action or doing something to fill that void. And this could be because of what we've learned in the society we live in. We live in a world that moves fast, thinks fast, responds fast. And in that kind of environment, silence can feel almost out of place. So what do we naturally do? We fill it. We fill it with music, even with podcasts, with scrolling, with conversation, with constant input. And it's not always because we need it, but it's because we've learned to be uncomfortable without it. But what if we've misunderstood silence? What if silence isn't empty space, but formative space? What feels like empty space is often where capacity begins to form. Many women today are carrying a lot. We carry responsibilities, expectations, not to mention all the hats we wear, the roles we step into, the commitments we make. And in many cases, there's also a subtle pressure to keep doing more. So we keep showing up, we keep giving, we keep serving. And sometimes that pressure does come from the culture we live in, But other times, like I've talked about in previous episodes, that pressure, it comes from within. And sometimes it even comes from the way that we have learned to interpret faith. We often interpret it as if doing more is seen as being faithful. But here's something that I want us to consider. Many women are so busy doing that they never give God the space to form in them what He wants to bring through them. And this is where the idea of capacity becomes important. When I say capacity, I'm not talking about your ability to do more. I'm talking about your ability to hold space. Space for what God is doing in you so that what flows out of your life is formed by Him, not forced by pressure, not forced by expectations. Capacity, it's not about adding more to your to-do list. It's about becoming able to carry only that which is truly yours to carry. And I have come to learn that silence plays a major role in that. Because silence is the thing that creates the space. It gives us space to think, space for us to feel, space for us to take notice of what's happening beneath the surface. And it gives us space to clearly hear what God is saying to us. Now, I totally understand. Silence can also feel uncomfortable because when that noise fades, what's underneath becomes more visible. The thoughts we've been avoiding, the emotions we haven't yet processed, those dreams we've buried, the questions we haven't made time to ask. And that discomfort can make us want to reach for noise again, to be comforted by distraction. But what if discomfort isn't a problem? What if it's an invitation? There's a moment in Scripture where God promises Abraham and Sarah a son. But instead of waiting, they take matters into their own hands. You may be familiar with that story. And in doing so, they produce something in their own strength. And his name was Ishmael. However, God's intention was always Isaac. And as I think about that story, it reflects something that you and I still experience today. When we don't allow space for God to form in us what He wants to bring forth, we can find ourselves struggling to produce things in our own strength instead. Things that look like productivity, but were actually not formed by God. Silence is often that space where that formation happens. And it's true, sometimes that space feels uncomfortable. But being uncomfortable doesn't mean something isn't growing. Let's think for a moment about a woman in her final months of pregnancy. There's discomfort, there's pressure, there's stretching. Yet something is forming. Something, or shall we say someone, is about to be brought forth. And that process, it simply can't be rushed. Silence doesn't have to look like sitting in a quiet room for hours. I, for one, am really thankful for that. I have learned it can be much simpler. It could look like taking a walk without your earbuds, silencing your phone, driving without turning something on, or moving throughout the routine of your day and not filling the background with noise. How about allowing a simple, quiet moment instead of reaching for something to fill it? These may seem insignificant, but they can become meaningful moments. Truth is, beautiful things grow in silence. At the time of this recording, we are 2 days outside of spring. And around here where I live in Virginia, everything is blossoming. But for the past several months during winter, it was pretty silent. But now, it's beautiful. But if we never allow space for silence, we may never fully recognize what God is growing within us. So here's something to reflect on this week. What have you made silence mean? And where in your life might you be filling space that God is actually wanting to use for formation? Sit with those questions for a bit. There's no hurry to answer them. Just seek God and see what He has to say to you. As we begin to bring this conversation to a close, let's remember this. Silence is not wasted space. It's often the very space where God is at work, forming something within you that will eventually be expressed through you. And the more willing that we are to give room for that space, the more aligned, the more grounded, and the more clear we become in who God's creating us to be and what He's asking us to carry forward. And that kind of transformation is something we continue learning here together in this space. If you'd like to keep having conversations like this, you're always welcome to join me here every week. We gather in this space to slow things down, to listen beneath all that noise, and to keep learning how to live from who we truly are. And if you'd like to explore this work more deeply, there's a link in the show notes to schedule a free call with me. For now, take this with you as you go back into your day. What feels like empty space is often where capacity begins to form. Let that settle gently within you. And as always, remember, you are chosen. You are loved. You are amazing by design.